Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming, as always. I hope everyone has had a good week. I've had a very good week. I'm working with the Grammys on a project, and I'm actually going to go speak to our Congress people and Senate people as a musical advocate here in the next few days, and remind them that everyone enjoys free art in this country. So much of what there's nothing you can see or go to or experience where there isn't music of some kind going on. Now, lots of times the music is not that great, but it was still created by people. It was the gift of their imagination. And I wanted to sort of use that as a stepping off point this evening. I've taken to titling these sessions, and the title I have right now is The Puzzle, this is for tonight, The Puzzle of Your Life. The Puzzle of Your Life. I went to Yale University this afternoon for a follow-up examination after 14 months since I had radiation for a tumor I had in my tonsil. And I do the practice that we are doing together here. And I do other practices, Qigong and martial arts. And one thing I tell people, if you've been in the martial arts for 10 years, if your teacher hasn't started teaching you about healing, then I always advise people to go to another school or get another teacher. I started studying martial arts in 1964. And right away, the instructors that I had were talking about healing and helping and fixing. And I've been training every day, literally pretty much every day since 1964. And I got promoted to a higher rank than I ever thought I'd get to about a month and a half ago in Indianapolis. I had to cancel this class, actually, because I was out there. And while I was at Yale, I was being looked at by my radiologist. And throughout the process, she was commenting on the progress I've made. And I demonstrated some of the techniques that I do for massage and whatnot on my neck and my throat. And two doctors came in with flashlights, and they watched me do this technique that I do. And in sort of that sterile denial, the doctor's sterile denial of reality, they kind of stood up a little straighter than when they came in and quietly walked out of the room. I know they had a conversation later. But what my radiologist discovered today, and she wasn't surprised, when they put a scope, through your nose and down your throat to look at everything. And she said most of her patients that are a year, 14 months, 15, 16 months out of radiation begin to develop problems in the throats and stuff because it's radiation after all. And she was looking in there half expecting and probably more than half not expecting to find issues developing with me. So she's in there looking around, and she says, she's shaking her head, and she says, she said, I look for swelling, I look for this, I look for that, and you don't have any of it. She says, you have a perfect larynx. A perfect larynx. And she was really in some level of disbelief. And I said, well, I do this stuff all the time. And she knows it. She knows me well. She was my radiation doctor. And I said, I do these things. She said, yeah. And I said, would you like to see me do the technique? Because she'd never asked to see it before. And so I showed her what I do. And these other doctors were watching with their flashlights. And she said, well, usually in the cycle of post-radiation therapy, the doctors want to see you every 6 months. She said, it's been 14 months. This is supposed to go on for 5 years. And she said, I really don't think I need to see you anymore. So basically, she was canceling my next 3.5 years of appointments. And I said, well, I love you, to her. I mean, you saved me, and I'm on a really good path now. And you need your data, so if it's all the same to you, I'll just keep coming in. And she laughed and she said, that'll be great. And so what I took away from that is that as I was leaving the hospital at Yale today, was that every experience that we have in our lives, every thought that we have, everything that we imagine is in each piece a puzzle piece of our life. And as we get older and a little more experience, we begin to put the puzzle together to try to figure out, what is this all about? Why are we here? What am I supposed to be doing? And I was reminded that we don't own anything. I don't own this book. I have it in my possession. I don't own this chair, but I have it in my possession. And when I die out of this body, I'm not going to have it anymore. The only things that we have are love and the growth of our spirit through the experience of this life. And I was thinking then about an episode of Star Trek. Any Star Trek fans out there? In the early, well, it was actually 1968. I looked it up. There was an episode that was called "The Spectre of the Gun," and the story was that Captain Kirk and his retinue, his jolly band of people, including Mr. Spock, were somehow on this planet, and they were being punished for having trespassed. And the entities on the planet put them in the 1881 OK Corral gunfight. And Mr. Spock, they all agreed that this wasn't real. It was some sort of a facsimile of something. But it was real enough that had they been shot with one of these imaginary guns, it would have killed their body. And Mr. Spock said, well, I have this ability. I know that this isn't real. And as a Vulcan, I have been trained. I know it. I'm not going to be hurt by these guns. But you humans are going to be shot. And if there's a shadow of any doubt that this is fake, then you're going to get shot and you're going to die. And so, Kirk says, well, Spock, what can you do? So Spock comes over and does that thing that he does. And he entrained, yeah, exactly. He entrained their brains to know, not believe, but know that nothing was real and nothing was going to affect them. And so Spock does it to all of them, and Kirk and McCoy and Scotty are standing there kind of looking a little bit like zombies. And Wyatt Earp and all the Clantons and whoever was there opened up on them and fired all their guns and shot them, and nothing happened. They didn't get killed. And of course, there ensued the fist fight, which Captain Kirk won. But the point, I thought it was a beautiful point, and that believe it or not, that has stuck with me since 1968. And it is the truth that our imaginations are the blueprint of our reality. Let me say that again. Our imaginations are the blueprint for our reality. Now, sadly, as children, we are taught that the imagination is make-believe. And when you're a child, you let your imagination run wild. You can do anything you want. And then we grow up and we have some experiences in the world and we say, wow, that's not good, that's not good. That's real, this isn't good, this is real over here, this is not good, or this is real, this is really good. But we fail to remember that everything that exists on the planet Earth that was created by humans came originally from their imaginations. Nothing just happened. The cars, the houses, the tools, sadly, the weapons, anything we created came from somebody's imagination. They manifested into a physical form a thought that they had. And that took me to the idea, well, our subconscious mind, a lot of this imagination stuff is happening in there. And a lot of research points to the fact that the subconscious mind does not know if you're sleeping or if you're awake. So when you say, I am this or that in your waking state, that I am this or that sticks in your subconscious mind and it gets replayed over and over again while you're sleeping. And the language, any words are always misleading. And so that took me to the grammar of what we say when we live our lives. And any gramminators out there, the words the, or a, and of, they're all articles. Now, of is a preposition, but the is a definite article, and are indefinite articles. Now, I'm not going to dive into the syntax and the grammar of English. However, the one unifying thing for those words and articles in particular is that they separate us from something else. So if every word and every thought and every action is a form of prayer, then when we use words like the Lord, the Creator, the universe, we are creating as a noun something that is not who we are. So we go to church, we pray, dear God, do this or that for me. You're asking a second party over here that isn't you. And I bring this up because the subconscious mind picks up on the fact that you are separating yourself from the Creator. You're separating yourself from the thing that will heal you in the hope that somehow something will happen and that thing over there will somehow help you. A big mistake that John Travolta and his wife made, they had a son that was sick. And they were, I think it was Christian Science. Mary Baker Eddy was the founder of the Church of Christian Science. And she had, this is back in the 1800s, and she had healed her body of some horrifying thing that was going on with her through her belief that God fixes everything. And Christian Science became a methodology. And John Travolta and his wife were Christian Scientists. They were members of the church. And so they prayed all the time. And he talked about this. This is how I know it. They prayed all the time for God over there to cure their son over here. And wouldn't you know, God bless him, the son died. And Travolta and his wife were very upset. And it kind of shook the base, the roots of their belief system. And the error in their thinking was that God was something else. And when we are in our meditation, I want to modify the way we use words so that we do the best we can to be directly not connected to. I'm connected to God. Well, that still means God's someplace else. So here's a notion for you that can be a little challenging. I am God. You are God. If you think of a grapevine, a grape arbor, the grape is on the end of a little stem. And the stem is attached to a little branch, which is attached to a larger branch, which is attached to the trunk of the grape plant. And then the roots go into the earth. Could you say that the grape on the end of that stem is the direct result of everything about the earth itself? The chemistry of the earth, the vibration of the earth, the sound of the earth, the heat, the movement in space, all combined to create this grape. If the earth is a metaphor for creator, then isn't the grape plant a direct part of the earth? Isn't it a direct part of the Creator? And isn't that grape that we like to eat a direct part of Creator? So we take that idea and extend it to our bodies. If Creator is everywhere, if Creator is everything, if Creator is our imagination, then maybe our bodies are the grapes. There's this large, ubiquitous, universal Creator, and we are a manifestation. Our bodies are a manifestation of the mind of God. And you see how many times I said the and of? It's built into our language, the separation. So what I'd like to do tonight is to practice taking the separation out of the equation as much as we can. So we're going to travel to that place that's out there. It's way inside here, actually. And we're going to address Creator. And I'd like you to be looking, I'm inviting you to look at the entire white space and know that it is Creator. And as we're traveling there, to know that the space, the images we're passing through, and the yellow or the pink plane and the gelatinous stuff that slows us down, finally emerging in that white space, it's all Creator. And it's all put in place so that we can practice not separating from Creator. When we say, I am perfect, I am rich, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I'm abundant, I am joy, I am tells your subconscious that you are, and there's no separation. And so when we get to that white space, I'm inviting you to spend some time saying, I am all the good things you can think of to yourself. I am a birthday cake. I am wealthy. I am healthy. I am healed. I heal. And I'll give you a little prompts while you're there in this way. I'll say, I heal. And then I'll pause. And I would like you to say that to yourself in that space. And Creator will be there listening to you. Because you are Creator. And Creator is you. You are that grape on the end of the stem that is the universe. And your body, I'm not going to say my body, I'm going to say this body is the vessel that Creator is occupying, and it is my classroom for the time that I'm here. When you see yourself, when you state out loud with your voice or in your mind, I am, then you are. You manifest your intention by making it a singularity. Your imagination tells the universe what you are, and the universe manifests it. So when I go back to my throat and the surgery and the radiation, I am healed. I am perfect. And I look inside my body with my imagination, and I see perfectly healthy tissue, regenerated tissue, scar tissue going away. And my validation is going to Yale today and have them tell me that's exactly what happened. They don't put it in those terms because that's not where they're coming from. But I am healed. And you are healed as well. the last thing I'll say before we start is that there are two principal schools. There are other sub schools, but there are two principal schools of psychotherapy on the planet Earth. One of them is Freudian, and the other one is Jungian. And Carl Jung was a student, probably the best student, of Sigmund Freud. And the real only, and Jung does all the Freudian techniques, but the main difference between them, and this is the one difference that makes all the difference, Freud was an atheist. Freud thought we were born, we go through this, we die, and that's it. Jung, on the other hand, believed in God. He believed in a higher source. And in an interview that Jung did, it must have been in the 60s, the interviewer asked him, "So, Dr. Jung, do you still believe in God?" And I saw this interview. And Jung responded by saying, "That's a difficult question to answer." And then he said, "I know." And when I know, it sort of takes belief out of the equation. To believe in the spirit, to believe in the creator, separates you from the creator. I believe there is a creator. And by extension, your subconscious is saying, well, you're not the creator then. So when you say I am to any of this stuff, you become that thing, and then your body will manifest the healing that you say you are. And the healing is instantaneous, but the body has to catch up because we live in this dimension, in this universe where we require time to do things. But if every moment you do this meditation outside of our little experience here, I am beautiful, I am love, whatever the adjective is you want to use, as long as it's positive and it's about you, it will take effect in your subconscious and you will experience the result that you're looking for. And I'm here to tell you it works. So let's try this. I think you'll have a good time. So close your eyes and relax. And we will take control of this body by giving it the chemistry that it needs through our breathing. And if anyone here is new, we'll breathe in gently for 2 counts. We'll let the air sit in our body. We'll breathe out for 4 counts, and we'll remain empty. And forgive me for running a little long in my talking. We're going to run a little bit over tonight because of that, but I thought that was really important to tell you that story. So here we go. Nice and relaxed. Breathe in, out, 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 out. 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 Now your body is very relaxed, you're very calm. The chemistry in your blood, healed by the way you breathe, is nourishing your body. Your body is beautiful, it is safe. It is healthy. And now, with your eyes closed, find your complete presence inside of your eyeballs. Feel yourself physically in your body. Notice what the light looks like through your eyelids. And now, intentionally step backwards out of your eyes into the room inside your head. And as you step out of your eyes, visualize what were your eyes now as windows. And give them detail and step backwards away from them a little bit, further into the room. Notice the room. Notice the details. Don't focus on them, just know they're there and let them be. And step back and be 10 feet away from the windows and back further into this room and back 20 feet from those windows and back, and 3 or 4 more steps. And now 30 feet away from those windows that almost looks like a warehouse, a very big space. And look up at the top, look up at the ceiling, look up at the top of your head, and notice an opening. And as your spirit body here, float. The beauty of flying in your imagination is real. Float up to that window opening, the oculus at the top of the room, and pass through it. And notice the surroundings around your body and begin to pass higher through the ceiling, higher through the roof, higher still rather quickly. Notice the surroundings around the building you're in. And focus up. And there's a beautiful moon up there. Let's meet at the moon. In 3, 2, 1. And we're all right next to the moon. It's very beautiful. You can see the craters. Use your mind and see the detail of the moon. And now let's look up beyond the moon, and we're going to travel very fast. The only thing faster than the speed of light is the human imagination. So let's look up and zoom off, let's accelerate faster than light. And the stars begin to streak past us just like they did in Star Trek. And quickly we emerge into a large, seemingly empty space, but it's somehow filled with life. It's somehow filled with love. And speed ahead and see approaching quickly a pink image. Might appear as a wall. To some it appears as a barrier, but it is not a barrier. And as we draw closer to this pink area, we find ourselves suddenly immersed in pink light. And it has a texture to it, has a feel to it. Give it substance. And as we pass through that into this other layer that's coming up, a thicker layer, heavier layer, a more dense layer, perhaps a cooler layer. Maybe there's a temperature change that you pick up on. There could be sounds in here. And as we pass through this, open your awareness, and if you hear something, you hear it. If you feel something, you feel it. And up ahead we see the white begin to emerge. And as we approach that point, we pass into the white space. and pause just inside. And let's all gather together there as a group. Imagine you're surrounded by other spirits that are on this journey. And now on your own, fly up in the direction of your choice. Insert yourself deeper and deeper into this white light. And just listen to my voice and repeat after me. Creator, thank you for your love. Thank you for love. Thank you for peace. Thank you for guidance. Thank you for protection. I am love. I am peace. I am a guide for other spirits. I am a protector. I am beautiful. I am a manifestation of Creator's mind. I am health. I am abundance. I am forgiveness. I am joy. I am love. Thank you. Thank you. I am gratitude. I am grateful. And take a moment now and add any other beautiful, positive things about yourself. And I'll call you back in a few minutes. And begin to say goodbye. and begin to say, I know I will never actually leave you. And look down and begin to descend through this white space to the point where we were entering it and regather. And now together, let's begin to emerge into that cooler, thicker substance as we leave our presence in the white space, never truly to leave it. But we'll travel now back through that gelatinous layer. Listen for any sounds. Feel complete. Feel whole. Feel protected. Feel loved. Feel relief and happiness. And approach that pink light ahead and pass into that and feel yourself immersed in the pink light. And we begin to zoom ahead back toward the earth where our bodies are waiting. And as we emerge from the pink light into that seemingly empty space that is actually filled with love and good intention, let's accelerate back toward where our bodies are. And as we enter those stars that are zipping past like they do in Star Trek, see ahead of you where the solar system is. See our sun. See the earth. And as we grow closer, you can make out the moon, and let's rendezvous with the moon in 3, 2, 1. We regather. Traveling friends, traveling spirits from a beautiful place. Now returning to a beautiful place. Look down toward the earth and see your location and move toward it, rapidly descending. As we reach the atmosphere, begin to slow down and descend. You can see the curvature of the earth from here, but you know where to go. Aim toward where your body is waiting. And as you descend, begin to make out the landscape and the details surrounding your area and the details surrounding your house or your building. And see the roof through which you are about to pass. And gently sink through the roof, sink through the ceiling where your body is waiting, and pause and look down with great detail at your body, peacefully waiting for you to re-enter consciously. And sink down toward the top of your head. See that opening. Pass through that opening and emerge into the room 30 feet away from those windows. And take some gentle steps forward toward the windows. And continue to step forward. 20 feet away now. Stepping forward. 12 feet away. A few more steps. 8 feet. And look carefully at the windows and see their detail as you get closer. 3 feet. seeing the windows, reach out and touch the windowsill. And as you touch it, step back into your eyes and feel yourself fully present in your body. Do a little inventory of your body. Feel the skin and the fabric touching it, or the seat upon which you sit. Listen to the sounds of the room you're in. And breathe with me. Breathe in, out, 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 out. 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 3 more. In, out, 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 out. In, out, 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 out. In, out, 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 out. And breathe and relax. Be gentle with yourself. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. And that concludes our journey for today. And as always, I'll stay on if anyone wants to ask a question or make a comment. You are certainly welcome to do so, and I will stay on as long as you want to be here. You're welcome.
Pat, this is Brenda, when you were talking about the words that separate us, and was one of the and I wonder if you could expound on how a or and are separating.
You and I, the creator. When the definition of an article or an indefinite or definite article, I don't have it memorized, but essentially it boils down to the subtlety between a thing from which we are separated, or things from which we are separated, or a singular thing from which we are separated. So you and I would separate us as 2 individual entities. And the bugaboo of language is that your interpretation of a particular word, or anyone's interpretation of a particular word, could be entirely different than my meaning in using that word. And so we get into this sort of syntactic argument of, well, are we together? I mean, that itself is a sort of an oxymoron. Are we together? Plural, singular. And it's a trap. Language is a total trap. You know, when we were in our space, there are no mistakes. But if I were to argue that syntactically I made a mistake, I did. Thank you, Creator. right? And so it's an ego trap, and when our belief system uses syntax, pardon me, it tells our subconscious that we are speaking of two separate things. And the subconscious processes that and says, oh, you think you're this and you think creator is that, therefore you're not together. And so what we're doing is re-entraining our thinking process. I'm sorry, let me just have a drink. To do the best we can to not separate ourselves when we're using words. Now, I brought up Carl Jung and Freud for this reason. I'm glad you asked that question. Jung said, I know, I know. And so he took language out of the equation. He didn't say, I believe this, I believe that, because belief is a separating word. It separates you from your knowing. Sorry, so much for my perfect larynx. Yeah. You see my point, though? Yeah, I made you laugh. That's good. You gotta laugh.
Yeah.
You have to laugh in life. So, on one level, it's an impossible task on this plane. But prayer and meditation is not about the words. It's about the intention. So when you say, I am this or that, you're creating a new intention. And intention is voiceless. Intention is the universe. Intention is everything that adds up to that grape. The planet Earth is the intention that manifests as a grape. The universe, creator, chi. I mean, name your philosophical, groundwork, and it'll have a name for all this stuff. It's all the same thing. And it manifests as a thing. And so my premise is that Creator has created this classroom, this classroom back behind me, this classroom of the world we're in, for our spirits to remember that we are God. Now, why we are here having to have these lessons, maybe that'll get answered when we leave the body and go directly to Creator and say, what was that about? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really one of those things that's sort of beyond our human ability to understand, which for the third time takes me back to Carl Jung, and I know. I just know. I know it's the truth.
So let me ask
My truth isn't necessarily anybody else's truth,
but
that's part of the lesson.
where does faith is knowing and faith synonymous?
I think they're difficult to separate. Now, if I was going to really be pedantic about this, I'd say, well, faith comes before knowing. Belief comes before faith, and faith comes before knowing. You asked me the question, so that's the best answer I can give you. I believe this to be true. I have now, further down my roads, I've gathered evidence that is true. And in the absence of evidence, I have faith that it is true. And then a certain level of experience will teach me to the point where I just know. Now, I could just as easily put faith before belief. So let's say I'm in jail. I mean, we're all kind of in jail anyway. We're on this earth. I have faith that I will eventually get out of jail. As the date of my release approaches, my increased faith turns to a belief. So I'm flipping these around now.
Right, right.
And when I finally get out of jail, I know. So jail here is a metaphor for our lives. I have faith that sometime along the way, I'll have a realization of some kind, and then I'll pass out of this body. And as I get closer, and I'm closer now than I was yesterday, so I believe it to be true. And when I finally cross my own rainbow bridge, I will know. Now, people like Mary Baker Eddy and others, if you want to use Jesus Christ, if you want to use Muhammad, if you want to use Buddha, and the 10,000 other people that have come along on the planet Earth since people have been here, there were those who knew. And if you want to use Jesus Christ as an example, Jesus Christ knew. He knew. Buddha knew. And Buddha paid his dues in the learning of knowing. And Jesus Christ certainly, I'm sure, paid his dues too. In China, actually in India, there are 4 books called the Vedas. And in one of the Vedas, they actually talk about Jesus Christ having gone through India in the years that he was missing and traveling. He was traveling and learning. And there are records of him in India, and there are records of him in China. So he just was not back making chairs as a carpenter. He was doing his work. He was learning to know. In my opinion. I know a lot about the actual history of the Buddha. It's interesting in Buddhism, the Buddha came 500 years before Christ, then Christ came, and then Bodhidharma came 500 years after Christ. And Buddha and Bodhidharma were very, very similar individuals. They did a lot of the same work. And the Buddha started, he did what he did along the way, and then 1,000 years, literally 1,000 years later, Bodhidharma comes along and reinforces everything that the Buddha did. And really kind of kicked off Buddhism 1,500 years ago in China. It existed before that in India. And then in China, they called it Chan Buddhism, which when it went to Japan became Zen Buddhism. But they're all the children of the one that came before. And Christianity is like, go back to the grape arbor. So Jesus happened. Jesus was the earth of the tree that became Christianity. And Buddha was the earth of the tree that became Buddhism. And Muhammad was the earth of the tree that became Islam. And Islam's the most recent one. It's only been around 500 years. But these people came along to inform those who could hear them. And if those individuals along the way glommed onto that philosophy, they became the grapes, in a way. You follow me?
Yep, I do.
And it works for me. So, but coming out of Yale today, I did have an epiphany that I have not been doing this wrong for my entire life, but that I could improve it by trying to change the language that I use to be more singular in nature. Does that make sense?
If you define what it is for me.
It is your truth. It is your knowing that you are a beautiful spirit that is connected to me and everybody else on this call and everybody else on the planet and everything else in the universe.
Being on the planet.
Right. Well, that's the test, isn't it? So that's why this is the school. In my belief system, I'm going to go through this process for this life. And when I pass out of this body, we're going to have a little meeting and talk about what happened. What did I get out of this? And then prior to this life, I believe there was a meeting that said, what are you going to learn on this round? And what lessons do you need to practice this time?
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like I believe in reincarnation. And I do, but maybe not in the sense that I'm going to come back as another human or a dog or a dolphin or a flower. I might, I don't know, but I might. The lesson that I need to learn, I will be given the opportunity to learn it. And so, what I am doing now in this body is learning the lessons that I came here to learn. And that's what I'll carry on with me when I leave. The love that I've shared, the love that I have gained, the love that has passed through me, going both directions, from creator to you, and from you to me to creator. That's what the takeaway here is for me. So in that sense, I could say that I'm not afraid of dying. And I've had a number of near-death experiences. One very interesting one where I was just about there, and a portal opened up for me. And they say, well, there's a light. Go into the light. Well, a portal opened up for me that I could see, and I could see entities in it, and I was invited to come over. It basically said to me, "You can come now. Would you like to come now?" And I said, "No, I want to stay here." And then I was asked why. And I thought about it a second, and I said, "For my children." And basically it said, okay, the portal closed up. And a minute later, my wife showed up. I was home. And I said, I need to go to the hospital. I went to the hospital. I had a kidney stone that had blocked, and I was going into sepsis because the urine was backing up into my circulatory system and polluting my body and shutting off my organs. So I got to the hospital, and they assessed me, and they gave me a beautiful room on the 11th floor. They plugged me into morphine, of course, but they thought I was going to die. They didn't think I was going to make it. And so I was in this room, and suddenly I passed the stone. It was not supposed to be able to be passed. It was a jagged looking thing. It was stuck. I mean, I won't give you the details, but I passed it. And the nurse that was out there said, "You passed that?" I went, "Yeah." So she called downstairs, and the people showed up, and they said, "Wow, okay, go home." But they didn't expect me to make it, and that opening was real. And the day after my mother passed away, she visited me in a visible light, and I was in the very room I'm in right now. I was in this room, sitting at a computer doing some work, and this light appeared off to the side, and it was translucent. It was really a very interesting light. It looked like it was very translucent, and it moved, and I saw it. I looked right at it, and I saw it, and I knew immediately it was my mom. And it moved over behind the desk. So I have a laptop I'm talking to you on right here. It's on this desk, and it went right behind it. And when it was behind it, there was stuff here, like my computer was there, books and stuff, and I couldn't see it. But then it rose up, and as it passed through space, like physical space, 4 or 5 feet away, I saw it rise up, and I watched it rise up, and it just went away. And so experiences like that throughout my life, I've seen stuff in different places, have gotten me to the point with those items, to the point of I know. There are still things that I doubt in my subconscious. I practice to not doubt them because I believe they're true. I have faith that they're true, but I don't know yet. And when you know, you know, you know. And there's no more doubt. And life will tell you otherwise, but you just know. And it's okay. That's the news from Lake Wobegon.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And anybody else? I mean, I'm not cutting you off, Brenda. Brenda, is that right? Yeah, Brenda.
Yeah, it was Brenda. Pat, I could go on and on because
Well, clearly,
Clearly,
so
so
can
can
I.
you described what I know, which we are spiritual beings with no end,
Yeah,
Yeah.
having a human experience because we're creating that experience.
yes. You experience that which you believe to be true. And if you are in your imagination saying words that are loving to you, then you will ultimately experience those things. Because your imagination will manifest what you say is your truth.
And it's excellent advice for self-talk
Yeah.
to have me talk to myself in the affirmative. I am kind. I am loving.
Yes.
I am peace.
And you're not lying to yourself. You're just changing your paradigm.
Right.
You're changing your viewpoint. And very often, here's I'll use my book. Here's the front of the book. Unless I turn the book over, I'm not going to know what it looks like on the other side. Right? I have to actually change my perspective to understand the flip side of this book. And if we go through our lives hating each other, which most of us do, when we practice this technique we're doing, our belief in it is enough to make us do the practice, but it's not the end of the practice. And that's why this is a practice. We practice until we know. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
When I practice music, I'm a professional musician, and I practice every day. I practice scales every day. I probably do 45 minutes to an hour of just scales every day. And I'm fortunate that I have a job where I can do that because I'm teaching children to play music and I play with them as they practice. And so I'm modeling what it could look like. Today, I'll tell you this, since you're kind enough to stay on. At Yale, I really, it sounds odd, but I feel a lot of love when I go to the hospital because they were so loving to me. And I had it was a horrifyingly bad experience by many standards, but it was a very loving experience. And so I was never sad and I was never frightened. And so today I went to the room and they separate at Yale, they separate the men who are going in for radiation and the women that are going in for radiation. Because, that makes sense. So I go to the men's side and I stand in the doorway. I was dressed, this is what I wore. I had this pink shirt on, a pair of slacks. And the way people dress in hospitals these days, I look like a doctor. I'm certainly the right age. And I'm standing there kind of leaning on the doorpost or the door jamb. And there's these 4 or 5 guys in there. And they're looking at me because usually when somebody looks like me goes to that room, they're going to call you out and take you in the radiation. And I said, "Hello, man." And they were like, "Hello." And I said, "I stopped by to show you what 14 months out looks like." And they went, I said, "Yeah, you're sitting in the chair I was sitting in 14 months ago." And they went, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, well, I can't recommend the diet, but the results are good." And they laughed. I got a laugh out of them. And to get a sincere belly laugh out of a bunch of cancer patients and radiation, it's like, come on, that's worth the price of admission right there. So, and I have always been that way in that environment. So it was the going through that experience was an enormous gift, and I think that I wouldn't necessarily be here tonight with you on Grouper if I hadn't done it. And I was talking to the radiologist again, and she said, with your permission, she doesn't, she,
Yeah.
you know, she says, with your permission, I'd like to give your name and number to our social work department because I think you should be counseling and mentoring these people. And I would go for it, give her the number.
Yeah.
Give them the number. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, if you, it's all everything is choice. I mean, I think part of the reason that we are here is because our lesson is to learn to choose. You know, our ego is going to tell us to kill ourselves, and the other side of it is going to tell us to love ourselves. And again, we're in the middle. And it's the devil and the angel on each shoulder. Which one are you going to listen to? And the ego, thank you, Dr. Freud, is the loudest, noisiest voice in your head that you hear first, and it's always wrong.
I like that advice.
The hard part is to listen to that little quiet voice that says afterwards something else.
Yeah.
And again, it's practice. With practice, you get better at hearing that. When we're going through this visualization, you know, close your eyes and do the breathing is a biochemical change in your body. And we do the breathing so that your body physically calms down. Your heart slows down, your temperature drops, all the internal organs relax, and they're nurtured by the remix of oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide by breathing that's a technique, that breathing. And we do it 10 times. And that's all it takes. The pH in your lungs after that breathing is perfect. It's perfect. And so it's much easier for you to relax your mind because your body says, go ahead, I'm here, don't worry about me. And so when we're going back, we step out of our eyes and go into and we see the windows. That's our first step of releasing our concrete connection to the body. And as we step backwards, we're not walking forwards, we're walking backwards. And the reason we're walking backwards is because we have to trust. And when I say look at the space in your head, look at your room, take in the details. The details are the thoughts that your ego is throwing at you to try to distract you. And so in mine, I always have a picture on the left side of my room when I do this with you. And that picture, for me, I didn't say I'm going to do this. It's just appeared. But for me, it represents the distraction of my ego. And I notice it, and I don't deny it, but I don't give it any energy. I don't stop and turn my head and look at that picture on my imaginary wall. If I do that, then my ego is winning. And I'm not trying to kill my ego. People say kill the ego. Well, you can't kill your ego. You don't want to kill your ego. Your ego is your greatest teacher. In many ways, it's your greatest ally. And in other ways, it's your worst enemy. But that's why we're here. We're here to choose. Am I going to choose my ego? You see people driving down the road, they're all angry and they're going, and they're flipping people off and zooming in and out of traffic and driving crazy. That's the ego driving the car. But if you just relax and you're the driver in the other car, you can forgive them for listening too much to their ego. And say the prayer, I hope you don't kill yourself or anybody else, because the way you're driving, you're headed toward that. And your ego is at fault here. But that's another choice. They will learn to not drive that way when they learn to let their ego stop driving the car. I did that. I was that guy. And then I learned not to. And it only took me, 40 years. All right? but I didn't kill myself or anybody else in the process. So I learned that lesson. And now I understand a lot more about choice. And through this practice, I've managed to learn to quiet myself to the point where I can actually hear that little voice that's over here. And it's a wonderful thing. And the little voice is what told me to do this that I'm doing with you. So that's real. And I never talk about anything in these sessions that I haven't personally experienced. So I loathe the idea of telling you something that I don't know about and pretending that I do.
Well, that's not truth if that were.
Right. Yeah. You're right. You're right. And the beauty of the truth of a conversation like this is, look at this, it's continuing, right? And it's engaging because it is a reflection of the truth that we are both searching. And by hearing my voice and me hearing your voice validates both of us and gives us new thoughts. So if I'm teaching you anything, well, you're teaching me right back. So it's a two-way street. And that's the coolest thing about this.
So I'm teacher.
There you go. There you go.
And you are too.
Excellent. Well, everyone have a great week. Thank you for sticking around.
Thank you,
Thank
Pat.
you, Pat.
And be at peace and love yourself.
And you.
All right. I'll see you
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.